Hello there, this is Dave Motorhead, out in the garage working on things and fixing things, and tonight I'm making things to keep your flare fittings from leaking, like on a fuel line or something. And I'm going to show you how I do that, and give me a second, I'll turn this camera around and I'll get on it. So what we got here is we have a flare tee for a fuel line. It's a flare fitting, and there is a double flare like on a fuel line, and when you put these things together sometimes they leak. You put it in there and you tighten it up nice and tight and the thing leaks all over the place, or it'll seep a little bit and you can't, it just won't seal up. And so what I'm going to do tonight is teach you how to make one of these little flare fittings here. This is a flare washer that I've made, and it's made out of copper, and you stick it in there. And I got this bag of them from the hardware store, and let me pour one out, and that's what they look like right there when you start. And if you notice, when you take this washer and you go to stick it in there, I'm trying to do this with two hands, it doesn't really fit in there right, and the hole's too small. So anyways, let me turn this camera around and I'll show you what I got going. First of all, what you want to do is you want to take a good flare like this one, and you want to chuck it up in your flaring tool. And you see here I've got a little piece of one right here, and I've got it chucked up in the flaring tool already. That's a nice good flare there. And let me show you how I do that. Hold on one second. Okay, now I got I think you can see me down here. I've got my flaring clamp up here in the vise, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little washer here, that little guy, and I'm going to stick it on top of this flare. And then I'm going to take my single flaring tool here, and I'm going to run it down inside there and make sure that it's nice and centered on my flare, which it should be. It looks centered to me. Make sure it's all nice and centered. I'm just going to run that down in there and get it tight, and then back it off, and that'll take your little copper washer, and that'll put a flare on it like that. Make a nice flare. And then what I like to do is make sure it fits down inside here like that, and it fits inside. And then I'll take my other flare and tighten it up on there. Well, actually, one of the side is stripped here. I'm going to put it out and stick it in the other side. Put it in here, the flare washer. Then I'm going to tighten it up in there. Come on, puppy dog. Put my little flare wrench on it. And what this is going to do is this is going to smash it down in there and make it conform to the flare. Tighten it up a little bit, and then I'm going to loosen it up. And that's going to make it conform to the flare. So now I got myself a nice flared washer there to use as a gasket. Because the copper gets in there and it's soft, see, and it'll seal up the gap there. So give me 1 second, I'll show you what we do next. Anyway, the next thing we want to do is we want to take our little washers and we want to anneal them. And I've got myself a little bench here, a little metal bench thing there, and I'll grab my torch, and we'll get the torch going, and we're going to anneal these little washers we just made. And you kind of want to get them nice and hot. So I want to move this one over there next to that one. You can see they get nice and hot. They get kind of glowing like that. You want to make them glow a little bit, and what that does is that softens up that copper and it anneals them. And that's pretty good right there. You see they're glowing a little bit. Doesn't take much on these little guys. And so we're just going to let those things cool now. And then once those little washers are all cooled off, it's going to make the copper soft again. So just 1 second, let me turn the camera around. Anyway, I'm back with you now, and so what that's going to do is that little copper washer that's in there, the copper softer. You know, the fuel line is steel and the connector is brass, and if it seeps a little bit, you make that little copper washer and you stick it down in there and you tighten it up. And then the copper, when it's all annealed like that, it returns to its soft state. It'll form to whatever the fitting is, and when you tighten it up enough, it'll quit leaking on you. And it's an old trick that I just made up that I've used for a long time, and you can actually buy washers that are made for that, little flare fitting washers, but I don't have any place around here that sells them, so I kind of figured out how to make a couple on my own, and I just put them on this trike here because I had one that's seeping and it sealed up the leak, no problem. So anyway, that's how you make one of those little flare washers, and you can buy those little copper washers at any good like Ace Hardware store or any place like that, and there you go. Anyway, this is Dave Motorhead, and thanks for watching.